Hi, everybody. I just listened to that little video I did yesterday on the alleged right to health care, and I had an additional thought. I wanted to get it down on my walk before heading out of town to try a felony case in Onondaga County tomorrow. So my thesis is that I'm not arguing that we shouldn't have a right to health care. I'm making a much more powerful argument that no such thing could possibly exist in this world. But I wanted to add an additional point, which I didn't have. It was kind of a choppy, spontaneous podcast, but I'm going to go through this. I'm going to do some cheat notes. And this is an important topic. It's, the number one issue on the left, other than flooding America with immigration from other countries, because they can't get votes of Americans for their shitty policies. But this is the big issue. I'm going to put all this together, but I just want to get this thought out on video before I forget it. So, again, the original concept of a right is that it's a negative thing. In other words, if other people don't do X, my right is protected. For example, I have the right to life, and if the 8 billion people on the world don't kill me, in other words, if they fail to do something, if they abstain from doing something, my right's protected because I'm still alive. So that's what we call a negative right. And I won't belabor going into what a negative right is, but all rights are essentially negative in the philosophical sense that I've talked about. But here's the thing. So if you're talking about health care, well, that's not a negative right, so-called right. If I have a right to health care and the 8 billion people on the planet just take an afternoon nap, I didn't get any health care. My right is not respected. So other people have to do something. And the point I want to make specifically is, and I didn't really get into this in the original podcast yesterday. Since healthcare is a service, people have to produce this service, and it's a combination of labor, land, and capital, and machines, and real estate, people, computers, telephones, and so on. It has to be produced. And unfortunately for the people who advocate this right, we live in a world of scarce resources. So you can't really have a right in the classical liberal negative right sense because we live in a world of scarce resources, and unless you can prove that there's some scientific measurement of the exact amount of health care that somebody needs, and I think that's preposterous. I think it's always dependent on the circumstances, and if the treatment is good, more treatment would be better, generally speaking. There's exceptions to that. But if just give a crude example, if physical therapy once a week is good for me, the odds are twice a week would be better, 3 times a week. The guy moving into your house, full time. So because it's a scarce resource, it's always going to have to be rationed. And it's not going to be rationed by the right holder, obviously. It's going to be rationed by the bureaucrat. So again, if a right is something that the right holder controls or should control in theory, this cannot be a right. Now, going back to a negative right. So I have the right to life. If the 8 billion people on the planet all take a nap and don't kill me for the next 3 hours, my right has been protected. Now, notice that didn't require any resources, any expenditure of resources, because as far as I know, I'm really brainstorming here because I've never written this down. It's important to write things down to get it really clear in your head. doing nothing is not expending any resources in the real world. I guess you could say it's leisure, but okay, I don't really even think that's true, frankly, in this context. I think I'll figure out what's wrong with that argument. But again, the expenditure of resources problem in a world of scarce resources does not arise with respect, at least in theory, with respect to the various negative rights. And it does with the alleged positive rights, which is why there really are no positive rights. It's a myth. So that's the point I wanted to make. I hope that's clear, but I'll make it clearer in the final version. Just to sum up, negative rights do not require a positive expenditure of resources. They simply require that people abstain from being assholes, and that's why they're, at least in theory, capable of being protected without any great expenditure of resources. Healthcare is an expenditure of a resource. All resources are scarce, and if the government is in charge of this resource, the amount of health care that you get will be rationed in a variety of ways, usually by forcing you to wait in line. So I'll put all this together in a nice, neat package and get it out on, we'll archive it and make sure it's out there for everybody. So have a good day, everybody. I'm going to be scarce the next couple of days because I'm on trial.